man who is emotionally messed up. An emotionally messed up man is a man who has too many unprocessed emotions inside of him and is therefore unaware that he is run by them. He may in appearance look like a rational and composed man, which may mislead you at first, but you will know he is emotionally messed up when he reacts to various life situations in irrational, emotional, and disproportionate ways. In other words, when he has no hold of his emotions and sees and responds to everything through the lenses of his emotions and based on how he feels inside, rather than on facts and logical reasoning. Now, isolated incidents won't make a clear sign of an emotionally messed up man. I'm sure we've all found ourselves in highly emotional situations, and we responded in irrational and disproportionate ways. But what would make it clear-cut is the existence of patterns. So if this is something that happens often, if this is something that happens in ordinary situations that do not warrant such reactions, you may be dealing with a man who is an emotional mess, right? So, to help you recognize an emotionally messed up man, I'm going to give you some examples of the signs to look for. For example, he bursts in anger for some futile things that won't have such an effect on an emotionally healthy man. He is unusually resentful and bitter towards people or situations that don't deserve that much attention. He views the world as a dangerous place, so he's constantly on the offense in attack. He's always victimizing himself and sees others as potential enemies, trying to undermine and harm him. And of course, the world is not exactly a safe place. But a healthy man does not define the world as such and does not see himself as a victim of the world. Let's say he's a negative person who sees a problem in every solution and never the opposite. He finds himself in conflicts because he is actively creating them in his life. He has an inferiority complex and considers the world is divided into two parts, the people above him and the people beneath him. He can't compromise most of the time, and things have to go his way. Rigidity is a sign of deep unease and fear of the unknown, and it indicates that the person is in deep suffering. He doesn't have many friends, not because he's an introvert or he's very selective, but because people genuinely stay away from him. Of course, not having many friends is not always a bad sign, but you have to look for the reasons behind his lack of friends. Is it out of choice, or is it that people don't want to be friends with him? He can't keep one job because he always gets in conflict with his colleagues, but especially with the boss. So he has a problem with authority and collaboration. He has crazy spending habits because he feels the need to impress others in order to feel good about himself. If you get in a relationship with such a man, you are condemned to live continuously on a roller coaster, and your life will be unpredictable in a bad way and full of drama. Such men don't know how to live in peace and harmony with others. They bring drama to their lives and don't know how to resolve conflicts. They miss many opportunities in life and make many enemies along the way with such poor behavior. All that because they have serious emotional issues that they might not even be aware of. But that does not change the fact that being with such a man will cost you a lot in life. 2. He doesn't have a growth mindset. Low-value men also tend to be happy with how things are currently. They don't want to change anything. They don't see the point, and they love the status quo. They are only concerned with doing the bare minimum with the least effort possible. Why get a better job? They're thinking, if this one pays the bills, getting a second job to make more money, for what? Learning a new language? Oh, it's too difficult investing in courses to improve your skills. Oh, what's the point? The point is incremental change amounts to big transformations. And while being grateful for where you are and what you have right now is a virtue, not desiring to grow for yourself and those around you is not virtuous, and is symptomatic of the fear of change and deception. In fact, it's thanks to growth-minded people that humanity has evolved over the years. An inherent desire for improvement and growth is a condition to being a high-value man. So in fewer words, you want to be with someone who has a desire to improve himself, and you want to stay away from people who don't want to change anything. 3. He doesn't have internal references. High-value men have a strong sense of self because the self is their main source of security, esteem, and worth. They have taken the time to build a strong internal foundation that we're going to call internal references that allow them to trust themselves more than anyone else. Their internal references act as a guiding light in their life more than what other people advise, think, or say. They only value others' opinions when they deem those people trustworthy, reliable, and competent. Essentially, after they pass their internal references test. To the contrary, low-value men have a weak sense of self, and they are constantly in need of external voices for confirmation, reassurance, and opinions. They don't value their own opinion. They don't even trust it. They follow the consensus. They delegate their life's most important decisions to others. Whether it be to family, their boss, the government, you name it. You can easily recognize such men as they don't seem to have an opinion of their own. They won't take a clear stand on a subject because they simply don't have one. They will also change their minds according to who is around and who their audience is. You can say one thing and they will agree with you, and a couple of days later, you say the exact opposite and they will still agree with you. 4. He has no drive or purpose in life. One of the defining qualities of a high-value man is to have meaningful goals and a purpose in life. Researcher William Damon, who wrote A Path to Purpose, says, "Purpose is a stable and generalized intention to accomplish something that is at the same time meaningful to the self and consequential for the world beyond the self." So, meaning to the self and to the higher good and intention are what makes something purposeful. Low-value men tend to do things without meaningful intention and don't even seek to find meaning in it. If you ask a low-value man, "Why are you doing this?" you're likely to get answers such as, "That's how it has always been done," or "All my friends are doing it," or "I don't know, I just do it." They give these kinds of answers because they never ask themselves why, often because they are afraid to get there and prefer to keep the status quo. They are actually scared of seeking purpose and never finding one, because there is always a latent period where you won't find any purpose until you actually find it. So they don't seek meaning in what they do, and they are only concerned with getting by so that they can free their time to do more fun activities. Living a purposeless life is like eating food that all tastes the same, and if you are with a man like this, your life can become tasteless too. 5. He is cheap. There is a difference between being money smart and being cheap and stingy. The former is a sign of a high-value man, and the latter is a sign of an extremely low-value man. In most cases, a stingy man is an insecure man who does not have full confidence in his ability to make money. He also has a scarcity mindset and believes money is hard to earn, and so he fears he may lack money one day. A high-value man has a money management mindset, meaning he's not controlled by his fear or his lack of confidence in himself. He has these two things figured out. Having said that, a high-value man knows the world works, and so he spends money wisely on things that he really needs, while still treating himself and the people around him. Most importantly, a smart, money-minded man will not bother too much for small expenses. He won't apply his smart money management rules on small expenses as opposed to a cheap man. So you need to learn to make the difference between cheap and smart money-minded men. For example, a man is cheap if he is always looking for a bargain, if he's asking you only for coffee dates, if he wants to do Netflix and chill most of the time, if it's a big deal. for him to go 50-50 on everything, if he assumes that you're going to go 50-50 on everything, if he uses coupons on the dates, if he invites you to order the cheapest meal on the menu, and if he forgets his wallet, if he doesn't tip or tips very little, or if he's always expecting you to pay your way. Also, something I want to add, rich or wealthy doesn't always mean not cheap. Someone's background or status doesn't always translate into being generous with their money. It's really a matter of mindset. So all in all, you should stay away from two types of men in particular: a cheap man from a wealthy background and a man who built himself and became wealthy but still cheap. 6. He has a big ego without the skills and competence to back it. Having an ego is not a bad thing at all, but having too big of an ego is a terrible thing. Ego is our biggest enemy early in our careers. It can prevent us from learning and developing our talents when we taste success. Ego can blind us to our own faults, alienate us from others, and lead to our own downfall. A big ego that turns toxic can become a real obstacle for an individual to grow. But there is a case where the ego is not so bad if its energy is fueled to grow and develop skills. A big ego with skills is better than a big ego without skills, because there is value to a man who can demonstrate matching skills and competence for his big ego, which shows that he is able to use his big ego in a constructive and positive way to build himself up. Most men with big egos have deep insecurities, probably originated as far as their early existence. Deep down, they believe they are not good enough by themselves. And some of them have been able to utilize these insecurities as a catalyzer for growth, success, and achievement, which turns them sometimes into competent, arrogant. Unfortunately, a high-value man neither has a big ego nor small ego. He has a balanced ego and a strong sense of self. He does not think he is better than everyone else, and does not go on a quest to prove it. A high-value man is able to achieve his success by playing fair and without having to constantly crush his enemies, which big ego men do. He recognizes other people's skills and competencies and thrives in collaborative environments. 7. He is too close to his mom. Another warning sign of low-value men is a suspicious closeness to their mothers. I'm not talking about a man who has a good relationship with his mother, but still is an independent grown-up man. I'm talking about someone who turns to his mom every time he's unsure of something and he needs advice and relies on her in an unhealthy way. Such a man is just a big boy who hasn't grown up yet to fully be a man, and it is seriously dangerous to be with such a man because these men can't think independently. Their mothers have tremendous power over them. They can influence them, manipulate them, command them, and demand from them. In other words, you won't have a relationship with a man. You will have a relationship with a man and his mother. So when you get in a relationship with a man, be sure to pay close attention to his relationship with his mother and run if you see some of the following signs. For example, if he's always calling her, if she talks to him like a teenager, if she still does things for him such as his laundry or making his food every day. 8. He is vindictive. A man who is vindictive is not simply a man who is seeking revenge to perceived wrongdoings in an isolated incident, but rather has a tendency to seek revenge and retaliate to perceived injustice that is in most cases not grounded in reality. And this is a man to stay away from for many reasons. 1. Because it's a childish behavior that indicates that the man hasn't matured yet and may never do. He can't forgive nor forget, and is unable to put his anger aside and move on. And 2. Because one day he will turn against you. One day it will be your turn to be his victim, because you will do something that he will consider disrespectful or that harmed him in some way, and will disproportionately retaliate. 9. He's misogynist and sexist. Even if he treats you well and respects you, and you don't really get to experience his misogyny per se, if a man considers other women inferior to men and enjoys making sexist comments about women and treats them differently just because of their gender, it is a clear sign that he has a deeper problem with women, and one day he will give you a taste on that. Such a man will never see you as an equal. He will dismiss your suggestions, ideas, and opinions for the simple fact that it's coming from you, a woman. He won't listen to what you have to say, even if you make a valid point that could help him. Unfortunately, with such a man, you will be on for a very unhealthy relationship. 10. He is emotionally unavailable for relationships. This type of man would make for a very bad partner, bad husband, and bad father. You need someone who can meet your emotional needs, and emotionally unavailable guys simply cannot. These men are extremely confusing. They are afraid of emotional intimacy and vulnerability, and everything feels mechanical with them. You will never reach a high level of connection with these men, and you will most likely feel unloved in more than one occasion. Being with such a man puts you at a serious risk of being deeply unhappy and grow resentful of him